Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 190 of a year of change. And the beginning of week 28. And the beginning of sugar. This is the big one that we use. Ow. Just bit myself. Off to a good start. This is the one that we've really sort of been not necessarily looking forward to, but one that we know has been coming for quite a long time. That is going to be probably the most difficult for a lot of you. For me, it's always been salt. I'm still working on that, still trying to maintain a nice level underneath or under the recommended daily usage intake. Daily usage. Anyway, it is coming down, it's doing better. We worked on our fat intake. We've been changing some healthier fats and getting rid of the unhealthy ones, but I think for a lot of us, sugar is going to be the main thing. Because a lot of the stuff that we eat, whether it's just basically processed stuff or whether it's junk food or candy or just whatever we tend to sort of gravitate towards, there's a lot of sugar in almost everything. And that's the main thing that we need to really look out for. We're going to be starting off this week. I can't talk at all. Start over. All right, this is what we're going to be doing for this first week. I know that I had sort of said yesterday that I might extend this out into 8 weeks. I don't think that we really need to. It's going to be one of those things that's sort of going to be the long term. I don't know. This is a horrible start, isn't it? I'm sorry. We're going to keep on going, though. We'll push through. We will eventually make it to the other side. So, the main thing with sugar, I guess, is that if you saw Dr. Mike Evans' video that I put up last week, he came out with a pretty good term for it. I've been trying to figure out, it's not really a sinister thing that there's just secretly putting sugar in everywhere. It's not done as a means of, making people get addicted to it. It's really, he came out with a term that he said sugar is just really sneaky all the way around when it comes to food. And it's probably the best way to put it. Because there's stuff, like when you go and you take a look at the nutrition label on stuff, there's a percentage for pretty much everything. It tells you exactly how much is in there. Sugar doesn't do that. There's no percentage on there. And sugar has gone to great lengths and fought very hard to not have to put that percentage on there. And the main reason why is because if you knew exactly how much was in there, you would be able to do the math and figure out, no, this is a little too high. This is more than I'm supposed to be getting during the day. And chances are you wouldn't buy it. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to be going into as the weeks progress. There's, I mentioned before, there's the bliss, I think it's called the bliss point. Just that perfect amount of sugar and fat and everything else that goes into something. But I guess the main thing that we're going to start with for this is just a little bit of information. Because when you're looking at the nutrition labels, we know roughly how much sodium that we need now. There's a lot of stuff that says this is the percentage of iron that you're going to get, and these are your carbohydrates. We now know about the unsaturated fats and the saturated fats. But with sugar, it's usually just an amount, like 8 grams, 12 grams, whatever it is. So if you grab a nutrition label of anything that's close to you and you take a look at it, you're going to go down, you're going to notice that it just says sugar and an amount, which doesn't really tell you a whole lot, because who can be bothered to go look that up and try to do the math and figure everything out? Because everything else you can look at it and say, oh, it's 10% of vitamin C, so it's probably good for me. So here's what we're going to start with. Seeing as they don't give us the percentage, we're going to convert it into grams. Now, this covers natural sugar. Carbohydrates are a type of sugar, but we won't really sort of include those. We're going to look at just like the natural sugars and stuff, and, well, we'll throw in refined sugar as well. So, usually when you're looking at the measurements, 4.2 grams is 1 teaspoon. That's probably the best way to look at the measurement for it. So, and you can narrow it down to 4 grams if you want. That's what I end up doing. Just so I can take a look at it and say, okay, I can quickly do math, because you can add 4 and multiply it by whatever you need to. It's a little easier than 4.2. So we'll start with that little bit of information. So 1 teaspoon is or let's just say 4 grams of sugar, or even 4.5 if you want to sort of give yourself the benefit of the doubt. But we're trying to cut back. We'll go with 4 just because the math is much easier. Now, for individuals, it's going to be vastly different how much you should have in the run of a day. But overall, and this is a very general statement, Just sugars, which encompass natural sugars and refined sugars and everything else that you would eat during the run of a day. They say that for men, you're looking at roughly 36 grams. So 9 teaspoons of sugar per day is all that we should be having. For women, it's 6 teaspoons, so 24 grams. So it sounds like quite a bit. When you look at that, you think, well, I'm probably not actually eating that much. You'll be really surprised. Case in point, the best thing to sort of use as an example is just a can of soda pop, because that's generally what people sort of go to. And they'll say, okay, well, we'll compare it to this to see how things go. One can, say that you just had 1 can a day for whatever. We'll use Coke for the time being because it's the easiest one to think of. Sorry, choking again. So 1 can, 355 milliliters is the average size of a can. Whether you get it in a vending machine or in the packs or whatever. There are 39 grams of sugar in one of those. So roughly your entire day's sugar is in there and a little bit more. So you've got about 9, maybe 10, or no, not quite 10. So approximately 9 teaspoons of sugar per can. Now, keep in mind that everything that we eat has sugar in it. Any plants that we eat has sugar in it. So fruits, vegetables. The vegetables, obviously, not so much. That's why you get that sort of bitter taste along with it. But fruits have sugar in them. Vegetables, meat, milk. Absolutely everything has sugar in it at some level. So it's just really the added sugar that causes a lot of problems for us. Whether it's sour jujubes, which get me every time. Or if you're a chocolate person, or if it's caramel corn, or Twinkies, or cakes, or cookies, whatever it is that you decide is your, that's your weak point. That's really what I'm concerned with, or what we should be concerned with. What I'm concerned with. So listen to what I say. That's really what we should be concerned with, is the extra refined sugar. And I know this is sort of slowly drifting into organic territory, saying, oh, well, you need to have organic and all-natural nutrient hummus paste. It's not. What this is, that because they can sort of concentrate everything into a very small package, you get a lot more sugar with stuff than you normally would just with fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So right now, myself included, we are probably way, way above where we should be for sugar on a daily basis. And I don't even really eat a lot of junk food or candy. Sour jujube, yes. We've talked about this before. But for those of you that are out there that are looking at it and saying, well, this, we've done the salt, I'm fine with salt. We've done the fat, I'm fine with that. And the sugar is where your issue is. Then this is where it's going to sort of be a little bit of a struggle for you. But which is why I did the salt first, so I can look at it and say, okay, it's been 8 weeks since I started the salt. And I was able to cut way, way back. My sodium levels aren't really where they need to be, but that's mainly from food and condiments like mustard and Frank's sauce and stuff. But I'm not adding a lot of extra salt to stuff. And it's going to be a little different because generally speaking, I think I just spit all over myself. Hot. Generally speaking, you don't add extra sugar on top of stuff. Like maybe on cereal, you'll add something in there, or coffee, things like that. Now, I actually had this conversation today already. This doesn't mean that all of a sudden you need to say, good enough, I can't have sugar in my coffee. I'm going to have to add a sweetener or something else in there. That's fine. I mean, it's one of those things that, actually now that I think about it, I probably do eat way too much sugar just in coffee. Because I'm down to 1 now, but I used to put in 2 sugar. So if I'm having 3 or 4 of those a day, on top of all the other sugar that I have, then yes, sugar's going to be way up there. It doesn't mean, though, that you have to switch over to a sweetener, because your body still treats it roughly the same way. And I don't want to get into that where we're going, okay, well, I'm going to have this as a substitute, for sugars, and then I'll just have a substitute for meat and a substitute for vegetables and fruits and everything else. We can still have those sweets here and there. Our problem is that we're having it all the time for every meal and eating way too much of it. That's what we need to cut down on. So I don't expect that this first week that you're going to end up saying, good enough, I've gone through all my sugars and I'm under 35 grams or 25 grams or whatever your goal is. That's simply not going to happen. There's too much sugar in everything that we eat in order for us to do that in 1 week. It really is. And when you start looking at the nutrition labels, you're going to be shocked at just how much sugar is in stuff that you would never even think would have sugar in it. Stuff that doesn't even seem sweet, like pasta sauce. There's a tremendous amount of sugar that's added in that, and it's everywhere. And the weird thing is that when you're looking at the sugar content, even if you're looking at just the ingredients, it can have 10 or 12 different things added in there, and they're all the exact same thing. They're all sugar. And whether it's fructose or glucose or lactose or any other oses, if you take a look at that, there's barley malt, I think is another one, which is actually a sugar. You'll see cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup, which is sort of everyone knows about that one. But there are a number of different ingredients that you can go through, and it's just another way of saying sugar. Now, again, this isn't to say, oh, well, sugar is evil, we can't have it. But, I mean, sugars do turn into fat. This is why when we did the 4 weeks of checking our fat content, or fat levels, I should say, that I said don't buy low-fat stuff because it tastes like shit. And the only way for them to fix it is to add more sugar, which just turns into fat anyway. So it's just the same thing as eating fat. So, which is why we sort of substituted the healthy fats for the unhealthy fats, rather than substituting unhealthy fats for sugar, because it does the exact same thing. So, along with this, I mean, you don't really need to go for, sugar-free and low sugar, because they're just going to be adding in sweeteners and stuff like that. And our goal, again, is to keep things realistic. I don't want to get to a point where you aren't really eating real food. Sugars aren't going to kill you unless we keep eating them the way that we are. And not to say that sweeteners are either. Don't worry. I'm not going to get on that kick. But it's one of those things that there is that practical aspect that we've always tried to put forward with this program, in that we need to be able to realistically be able to eat food like a normal human being. And having sugar every once in a while is fine. If you still want sugar in your coffee, have sugar in your coffee. It's just this first week, our main goal is to just really become aware of what is in our products that we're buying. And a lot of the stuff that you're going to be buying, because we've been sort of gravitating towards more of a whole food sort of thing. I was going to say natural, but it sounded too hippie-ish. Where we're buying more fruits and vegetables. We're buying fresh meat instead of processed stuff. We aren't buying prepackaged hamburgers and stuff like that. We're making our own, just like regular stuff like that. You're actually cooking from home more. You're taking the time to go out and buy fresh food and making it that way instead of just always eating out of a microwave box or something. So your sugar levels have probably gone down. But this week, really pay attention to how much you're actually taking in, whether it's with your coffee or your tea or whatever you decide to drink. If you are one of those people that's still, up until this point, you've been drinking a lot of soda, that's going to be a main, like a huge calorie hog for you. I'm trying to think of the proper term. It's probably the best one. Chances are, at this stage, you're drinking a lot less than you used to. And even that is better than how we were 6 months ago. Because I can't really imagine that a lot of you have gotten this far, that you're still staying underneath your calorie goal, but you're still drinking like 6 or 7 cans a day. And I know it sounds like a bit of an overly dramatic thing, but it's not really. Even a large drink from a fast food place is probably 3 or 4 cans of, I was going to say Coke, or whatever it is that you drink. And I'm just using that. I'm going to die. I'm just using that as an example because it's the number that is really the most famous. I'm sure that all the other cups that are out there, you're going to find the same level of sugar. But really, for this first week, I know that we are sort of trying to cut everything down and get to a point where we get to a stage where we're eating normally again, and that is part of what we want to do this week. But I don't want you to start panicking and looking at everything that you're doing and saying, I have to go out and buy all new groceries. You don't. This first week is mainly to really pay close attention to the amount of sugars that you're taking in every single day. Tracking everything as we have been. You can even go back and take a look at where we were 2-3 months ago to see what your levels are. And it's going to give you a better idea as to how many grams you should be taking in a day. And then if you really sort of want to, we saw in Jamie Oliver's TED Talk, not last week, but the week before, when he had the wheelbarrow full of sugar and he dumped it over. We know exactly, I mean, it's a bit melodramatic, but it shows exactly how much sugar people are eating in the run of a year. And that's on top of regular foods and everything else. That's just with drinking like a fizzy drink. Or soda pop, or soda, whatever you decide to call it. I'm trying to get my terminology correct here to accommodate everyone. We just call it pop where I am. So some of you are going, what? And then so soda pop, everyone understands what that is, even though it sounds weird coming out of me. Or fizzy drinks. Or Coke. There we go. We'll just use that. So if you're one of those people that, you're still drinking quite a bit of those, which I highly doubt you've made it this far and you've still been under, unless you're just not tracking it. But if you are, then you're getting the majority of your calories from Coke. It's probably not a good thing. We do need to sort of introduce more things in there. But it's going to give you an idea as to exactly how much sugar you're taking in. And when you actually look at something, not necessarily like a wheelbarrow, but when you can quickly convert those grams into teaspoons and take a look at how much sugar you're taking in, it's a little more, what's the term? Not really realistic. It's a little more visceral. There we go. There's a good word. Where you can look at something and say, okay, well, it says 40 grams. Well, take the can of Coke anyway. 39 grams of sugar. Doesn't look like a lot. But if you were to take 10 teaspoons of sugar and pour it into your hand and say, this is how much I'm taking in per can, and a can doesn't last very long, it will make you a little bit more aware of exactly how much you're putting in. And even at the end of the day, if you go in and you say, okay, well, let's go back a week. Pick a day that was a rough day for you, that you went in and you had, you didn't necessarily go off, but you didn't eat the way that you were supposed to. Or even going back 6 months and look at how you were eating before we were even tracking everything. Take a look at the amount of sugar that's in there. And then just try to measure that out if you have sugar in your house. Measure it out, or anything. It doesn't matter. Sugar or flour. Pick something that's sugar-like in measurements. And measure out the amount of teaspoons that are in there. It's surprising exactly just how much accumulates so quickly. And we never think of it. And it does cause a lot of problems for us. So, something to keep in mind anyway. So, when you're doing the math, 4 grams is 1 teaspoon. Probably the best way to do the conversion. It's actually 4.2. So if you want to add in that 0.2, go for it. But just for the ease of math, look at 4 grams as 1 teaspoon. Just a level teaspoon of sugar. So when you're looking at something and it says, okay, well, per serving, you have, I think with the cereal that I have, which I thought was very healthy, where it says, okay, it says 12 grams of sugar, I think, per serving, which is 3/4 of a cup. So 3/4 of a cup, which is not that much. Think of 3/4 of a cup of water, all right, which is a very small amount. In each one of those, there are 3 teaspoons of additional sugar. So, which is probably why it tastes so good. So just to sort of then put that into perspective and think, if I had 3/4 of a cup of water and then dumped in 3 teaspoons of sugar, would I want to drink it? And the same thing with Coke or Pepsi or whatever it is that you decide to drink. Take a can of Coke, fill it with water, and then dump in 10 teaspoons of sugar. And just take a look at it. And that's really, it'll give you a really good idea as to how much is going in. And when those start adding up through the run of the day, once you get to 39 or 40 grams and you're looking at, okay, well, I've had 10 teaspoons of sugar. On top of everything else that I've had, we're going to be eating lots of sugar anyway with fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. That's in there. Our main concern over the next 4 weeks, it's really going to be what I guess would be classified as added sugar or refined sugar. Still fine to have it in your coffee, still fine to have it in your tea, whatever you decide to do there. Just the little things. I'm hacking and coughing everywhere, aren't I? I'm sorry. The little things that we can start cutting back on. Like for me, I've actually cut back a bit on my coffee. Just having one less sugar in there, and eventually I'm going to take away some cream and stuff like that because I still like coffee, but eventually I want to get down to a point where it's just not as bad for me as it is right now. And that's the thing. We aren't ever going to get to a point where it's perfect. We just need to get to a point where it's better than it was. And I think we've done that actually fairly well. So for this one, no panicking just yet. The main thing this week is to really pay close attention to how much sugar is going in. You can go back and take a look at what our sugar intake has been over the past few weeks as well. where we haven't really worried about it too much. Convert those into teaspoons and just sort of give yourself a visual idea as to how much sugar we're taking in. That's why we need to cut back. Not because it's evil, not because there are lobbyists that are trying to hide how much sugar is in stuff. Just the simple fact that too much of anything is not good. Too much water, you drown. So, same thing. It's a horrible metaphor, I know, because you're not swimming in sugar and you're not trying to breathe it in. But I'm trying to be dramatic. Give me a break. Throw me a bone or something. Anyway, but eating that much sugar, it does actually cause a lot of health problems. Aside from creating fat cells, because once your body is full and says, well, I don't really need this anymore, then it just converts it into fat and stores it in there. It's glycogen, I think. I might be wrong there. Anyway, so it's going to convert it and store it in your fat cells. And that's why we are the way we are. Because we've just had so much for so long. And I think once we start sort of cutting out all the extra stuff, and again, don't go nuts. I'm going to probably take a look at, I'm going to have to reevaluate my cereal, which I said I was going to do a few weeks ago. But if you're eating cereals that are like Lucky Charms and Cocoa Puffs and all the candy type cereals, which I highly doubt any of you are anymore, it's fine to have that once in a while. But if you're looking to sort of steer yourself towards healthier cereals, we did a video of this quite a while ago, actually. This is a perfect time to do it. Sort of cut it a little bit back. Just you don't have to go just for shredded wheat. You don't have to go for something with zero sugar in it, because inevitably then you're going to add more sugar anyway. But again, be practical. Look at what you're taking in. See where you can say, you know what, I could make an adjustment here and it's not going to knock me out. If you're one of those people that are still drinking 3-4 cans of pop a day, just cut back by 1. Something like that. And then eventually, as we go, it's going to get better and better and better. It's going to get a little bit easier. You're going to start noticing a little more progress. And really, we aren't going to change things up now and just say, okay, cutting out sugar because it's bad. It's not. There are a lot of bad things about it, but it's just because it's sugar. It's more because it's the chemical, not because it's just permeated everything, which it really has, which is kind of the scary part, because I try really hard not to sort of be melodramatic and just saying, oh, it's sinister and conspiracy theories. But holy shit, when you look at, really a lot of the stuff that it's in, it's weird just how much sugar is in everything. Stuff that you just would never even think of. But we'll take a look at that. There are a number of different documentaries that I've got stockpiled that we'll be able to watch over the next 4 weeks that are very, very interesting. You'll be able to take a look, and some of them are a little dun 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 kind of thing. Some of them, though, they do present the information, then they back it up, and then they prove it again. So it's going to be an interesting month anyway for sugar. But I've gone on far, far too long on this one. So to summarize, this week, pay close attention to your sugar intake. If you can, try to keep it at our goal. 9 teaspoons for men, 6 teaspoons for women, roughly. I'm not sure why there's such a huge difference in there between the two. Haven't gotten that far with it yet. But just keep in mind, 4 grams per teaspoon. Going to give you a much better idea as to exactly how much sugar we're taking in. It might sort of illustrate things a little easier for you why we need to cut back. But again, we're going to be practical, we're going to be realistic, and we're going to cut back where we can, where it's going to be a little bit easier and something that we're all going to be able to stick with. So if I was able to do it with putting extra salt on my food, we're going to be able to do it with sugar. Don't worry, it's not going to be that bad. So I'm going to leave this video here, but thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me, and in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.